Hello and welcome to Plot Twisters.
This is a podcast where we take movies and twist the plot to see if we can make them better, and if not, more camp.
At the moment, we're talking about teen movies from the 90s.
On this episode, Camp Nowhere from 1994.
I'm Anders, and just because I'm smart doesn't mean I can't act stupid.
I'm Emma, and you know, guys can be geeks, but it's different for girls. I'm gonna wind up wearing a hairnet and serving Jell-O in the cafeteria. Doesn't sound right in a British accent, does it, Jell-O? I'm going to serve Jell-O in the cafeteria.
You could do it Britishy if you wanted to just switch it up just for fun.
Fellows can be nerdy, but it's not the same for young women. I'm going to end up wearing I think a hairnet is the same. I'm going to end up wearing a hairnet and serving jelly in the lunchroom. Was that better?
I think it was a little bit better. I like lunchroom.
Lunchroom. Yeah, it's kind of more direct, isn't it? Generally, it tends to be the other way around. I feel like Americans tend to use more simple terms where we use more complicated ones.
Hey. Are you saying that simple, because Americans, are you calling Americans simple?
No, I'm calling British people pretentious.
Yeah, that's fair.
So that's different.
Yeah, that is fair. Always putting extra letters in places that they don't need them. Yeah. Britain and America are different. Are we right, everybody?
Oh my God. So, Camp Nowhere. You got your bags packed? Let's go to Camp Nowhere.
I'm packing nothing but my swimsuit and my bad attitude. We're going to summer camp.
All I'm bringing is 40,000 candy bars. I'm going to get so ill.
You need some vitamins and you need some vegetables, but you can bring mostly Snickers if you want to.
Yeah, I'm planning on somebody else bringing that.
Dude, I'm bringing fireworks and also a BB gun. You want to go to camp with me?
Yeah. Woo!
Traditionally, what we do on this podcast is I go, "Hey, Emma, you ever seen this movie before?" And then you go, "Nope." And then I go, "Hey, Emma, what did you think of this movie?" And then you go, "Let's wait for that for a second." And then I go, "That means she didn't like it." And then you go, "Not necessarily." And then I go, "But you didn't like it." And then you go, "Nope." No. And that's the podcast.
That's the podcast. Thanks. See you next time. Bye.
No. But in case there are people who have never seen the movie Camp Nowhere, should we give it a little bit of a rundown for them?
Yes.
Let's.
All
right, so Camp Nowhere, right? It's a movie about a bunch of kids whose parents don't understand them or listen to them or acknowledge what they want in the world. But instead, the parents are like, "You're going to summer camp for the whole summer based on a thing that I think you need or like and not what you actually want or need." Mm-hmm. Right? One of the kids in this movie is Andrew Keegan, who we know from 10 Things I Hate About You. He's still kind of the same guy, but he's a little more badass and he's a little bit younger. But it was really nice to see him. But yeah, there's like this group of four, like there's a main group of kids who are like, "Hey, here's an idea. Mom and Dad want me to go to computer camp and to, eat more healthy food camp and a military academy camp and an acting camp. But instead, we're going to take all that money and we're going to make our own camp in the middle of nowhere and just hang out and have a cool time." Which I thought was a really cool idea, actually, to be totally fair. So they meet Christopher Lloyd. I mean, let's be honest. They meet Doc Brown from Back to the Future. And they're like, "Hey, Doc Brown. Hey, Christopher Lloyd. Hey, Dennis." His name is Dennis. So they meet this Dennis guy and they're like, "Hey, adult, can you pretend to be an adult and a camp counselor and con all of our parents and, go to this lake with us in the middle of the woods?" And then he goes, "Yeah, cool. I'll do that. I'm kind of a scumbag kind of guy," right? So then a bunch of kids, they go to the woods. They rent a bunch of cabins. They buy a bunch of stuff, and they just party it up kid style in the woods, very unsafely. And Christopher Lloyd Dennis, starts off as like a I don't care about anything guy, and then near the end he's like, I do care about stuff. I should probably be a grown up. He meets this doctor. They have a love. It's a fun, weird, fun movie where kids go, forget you, mom and dad. We're gonna go and have our own camp and deceit. But then eventually the parents are like, this isn't a real camp. You ripped us off. And then the kids are like, aren't we creative? And then their parents are like, I actually just love you. I hope that you're okay. I'm sorry I didn't listen to you in the past. I'll be a better parent and we'll have a better dialogue. And Christopher Lloyd, Dennis, is like, I'm going to stop being a scumbag. Will you be my girlfriend, doctor? And she says yes. And then, and also Biff is in this movie. So that was fun.
2 Back to the Future points.
In the same movie. And I think this might be a spin-off episode or canonically linked in some way. To be more succinct, this is a movie about a bunch of kids who pretend to go to a camp, but the camp isn't real, and they have a lot of fun. And then their parents find out, but it's fine in the end because nobody died, even though the whole time I was watching this, I was worried one of the kids was going to die or be hurt really badly.
Yeah.
So that's Camp Nowhere. Would you like, before I want to hear what you thought of it, and I'm going to lay my cards right out on the table. I'm going to lay the whole deck face up. Okay. Because vulnerability is an important component of being a human, and I think we should all be a little more vulnerable. When I was a kid, I thought this movie was so cool and so badass, right? A bunch of kids get to do whatever they want in the woods.
Yeah.
And I'm going to shock you.
Uh-huh. Oh, gosh. Okay.
I still kind of liked this movie.
That's not shocking. Hey, wow. What an undersell. That isn't shocking at all to me.
And also something cool.
What are your kind of favorite things about it?
I really liked Dennis, and I think Christopher Lloyd was awesome in this movie.
Mm-hmm.
I really like the fact that it was nice and like
You like the fact that it was nice.
I liked the fact.
Great. Wow. Thanks for that.
Hey, not everything.
Nice.
Sometimes you can just like something and go, that was nice. I liked how nice that was.
It was just nice. It's just a nice time.
I liked that everybody was sort of nice to each other, and in the end, everything was fine. I liked that none of the kids got hurt seriously, other than Mud, who did burn himself with a firecracker.
Yeah.
So those are the things I liked. I like Christopher Lloyd. I like the romance between him and the doctor.
Okay.
And I liked the sort of 90s vibe of it all.
Yeah.
Dude, cowabunga, gnarly. What did you do? Talk now. What did you think?
There's a few things in this film that I think will really appeal specifically to children. So there's this concept of each child having a specific path that their parent is pushing them down. For the main character, Mud, it's the fact that his parents really wanted him to go to like computer science camp, I think. And he's got this really nerdy dad who is really, really, like, he's portrayed as a really classic nerd, and he really is, very keen for Mud to follow in his path. And then, like you said, for the other families, there's one kid who's being forced to go to military camp. I can't remember some of the other ones. There's what was one of the girls' ones?
Oh, acting camp.
Yeah, and then you've got a kid who's being forced down the acting route, and they have to go to acting camp. And what this does is it then gives us this opportunity later when the kids create Camp Nowhere, which is just a free reign camp with no adults. Their parents all then decide individually that they want to come to like a parents' day, and they've been very clear about not having a parents' day, but they all decide they want to do it anyway. So they all turn up, and the kids have to kind of go through this sort of makeover, and they have to turn Camp Nowhere, which has been sort of run down and, you know, just kids messing about. They have to turn this site that they found into something that looks like a real summer camp. They then have this sort of military operation of changing the type of camp that it is for each parent that turns up. So they know.
Why didn't they just pick different days?
They know the parent. Yeah, that's a good point. I think all the parents decide to come on the same day, and they're all like, "We're coming on this day," which is a bit weird and a bit forced. But anyway, so they have to change from acting camp and then to the military camp, and Dennis is there each time as the leader of the camp, but as a different character. So he's the acting guy, then he's the military guy, then he's the computer guy. And this scene is so fun because not only is it like, you know, an opportunity to sort of show some like children's fun solutions to things, like they pull a rope and the sign drops and changes to like, oh, now it's acting camp. But you also get to see Christopher Lloyd doing these different characters, or rather Dennis doing these different characters, which is very silly and very fun. And it almost feels like the whole conceit of the movie is set up so that you can have that comedy scene at the end, which is really great.
Yeah.
So that was the thing I really liked about it. And I think that it did a good job of making its the conceit somewhat believable. I think like you know, if you were saying to someone, oh, I want to make a movie about a bunch of kids who go to camp and there's no adults, straight away there's so many questions and obstacles that you've got to overcome in order to get to that point.
Right.
I think they did a fairly good job of doing that. I think there was definitely some believability issues, but overall it was a pretty good job.
What was not to believe? You mean the moment where all of the kids somehow with cash ordered all of this stuff, including jet skis and chainsaws and a guitar, and they all showed up on like a convoy of trucks?
Yeah, there's an adult who comes out of a truck with a chainsaw and he's like, anybody order a chainsaw?
This 11-year-old's like, it was me. Can I have my chainsaw? Here you go, kid. Yeah, you had to suspend your disbelief for like a second.
Just for a second, yeah.
I think maybe, you're talking about it appealing to kids. I think maybe this movie appealed to me when I was a preteen because of the thought of, if I plan it, I could probably pull a real big fast one over my parents, and, you know, they'll never know. You know, the feeling of they'll never know, you know? And I could just do... But, like, because your mom and dad don't know, so you can do whatever you want, you know?
Yeah.
And it turns out what these kids wanted to do was just, like, you know, have a mud party in the woods, you know? Which I really, you know... I would have liked that.
Yeah, I was trying to put myself in that position of being a child and being potentially faced with the idea of going to a camp with no adults. And it gave me quite severe anxiety. I really don't think this is something I would have enjoyed.
No. What's the thing you would have least enjoyed about being a 12-year or 13-year-old at a camp with no grown-ups?
I don't know. I think I think I would have been very conscious of the safety issues. I was quite the accident-prone child. I had quite a lot of major accidents as a kid, so I think I really grew up very conscious of safety.
Major accidents?
Yeah, like I broke limbs and stuff.
Whoa, really?
Yeah.
Hey, I don't want to brag, but I've never broken any bone.
That's the weirdest brag. People always want to tell me that.
Hey, look at me. I don't fall down ever, you know? I've never fallen off a thing.
It's like when people say I never get sick, and it's like, that's such an odd thing to be proud of. Anyway.
Well, yeah. All right. I'll give you that. In the like hierarchy of things one shouldn't brag about. Number 1, don't brag about being tall. You didn't do anything to make yourself tall. Stop
hey, no, that I'll always brag about.
Yeah, but you didn't do anything. Oh, look at me. I'm tall. right? That's not like saying if two people were stood side by side, one of them was you saying, "Look how tall I am," brag, and the other was Michelangelo because of the the statue of David that he just carved.
I'd say I'm taller than your stupid statue. I'm not taller than David.
Have you ever seen it? It's super tall.
It's super tall.
And also, it's more brag-worthy to say that I made a statue chiseled it from the rock.
What you're saying there is the only person who's allowed to brag is Michelangelo, and nobody else is. That's it. Everything else is worthless.
Dude knew how to carve
No,
stuff.
I agree.
Plus, he invented airplanes.
Bernini, maybe.
Yeah,
but
to a lesser extent, your Picassos, your Vivaldis, and then if there's time, Winston Churchill. But other than that, nobody's allowed to brag, especially if you don't get sick or if, what was the thing that I was bragging about? Oh, I've never broken a bone.
Yeah.
I think it's kind of cool, right? Look at all my bones.
I think it's cool that I broke bones and they healed themselves. That's cool.
Yeah, that is cool. Did you get a cast?
Yeah.
Did people sign it?
No, I think I was too young for that to be a thing when it happened, when I broke stuff. Anywho, my point is I was a very safety conscious child and I was very aware of accidents and extreme sports and that kind of thing. So I don't think I would have liked that.
What else wouldn't you have liked?
So when I was younger, I was in the Cub Scouts.
So was I.
The Scouts. Were you?
Yeah, for a bit, and then I was like, well, I'm not really into organized things, So I left.
Well, mister, let me tell you.
I'm not really the kind of guy who joins stuff,
Organized things very much appeal to me as it goes. Yeah. I absolutely loved it. It's
cool.
One of my favorite things that I've ever done was being in the Scouts. Now here's a real brag, right?
Uh-huh.
When we did a scout camp and we basically played like a really prolonged game of hide and seek in the woods. Whoa. And I basically got into a thorn bush and lay face down in the mud for 5 hours and they didn't find me. And they genuinely got worried and nearly called my parents because I was so committed to this game of hide and seek. And then they had like an award ceremony at the end and they gave me the Stealthy Scout Award because of how good I was at hide and seek.
Wow. I wonder how close the police cars were because they absolutely called the police.
I was so committed. I was like, fine, you want to play hide and seek? You will never find me.
I will never be found. Good luck.
Goodbye. I will vanish like Arya Stark into the shadows.
Wow.
But yeah, so organized stuff I really enjoyed. It was very good. And then I actually became a scout leader for a bit as an adult as well. So I really enjoyed it from that end, organizing stuff. So I think I would have woken up 8 a.m. on Camp Nowhere. I would have walked out of my cabin and I've been like, well, where are the activities? I just have nothing to do all day. It's like being in lockdown.
But I feel like if anyone would be suited to go to Camp Nowhere and maybe help whip these kids into shape, it would have been you, right?
Did you go to camp? Did you go to summer camp as a kid?
Yeah, I went pretty much every year in high school. I went to camp.
Was it super wild? Was it super fun?
Oh, dude, you know it, man. It was
man.
So wild. When we went to church camp, it was sick,
Super wild, dude.
It's like so cool, and we were so naughty, and we did all the rad stuff after
all of the rad stuff.
All the rad stuff. Just after evening worship and before midnight vespers, son, we have so much, that thing where you've read your chapter of the Bible at Bible camp. And
no, but yeah.
And then before you go to the talent show where someone might read us another quote from the Bible because it's Bible camp, but you're like, hey, cool guys, let's go down to the lake and skip some rocks because we're not allowed to. So what I'm saying is, yeah, it's some serious fun at church camp. The times that I went every year in high school. The
wow.
end. Didn't you go to church camp?
No, I did go on choir trips though, which is kind of
We're
it's
same.
it's adjacent in a way, I guess.
I'm preaching to the choir here, if you will.
Yeah, exactly.
That's
yeah.
a joke, because the choir preach to the choir.
Oh, wait. Right. Okay.
Yeah.
Cool. There's this thing in countries that aren't America called Camp America, where if you are someone who is like, I think like 18 and older, you can go and be a camp counselor on American camps.
Yep.
Which I think is really cool. I always wanted to do it, but it just never worked out that I could do it. But I knew friends who did it and said it was always really good fun. I kind of get the vibe from that and from this that like it's kind of like a posh kid thing to do, isn't it? Is it like quite it's quite privileged?
Oh, 100%.
I mean, again, this is me being the worst and coming in with my, like my boring hat on and saying like, oh, this is just like, I don't know. I found it very difficult to get on board with these kids' problems because I was like, wow, you have parents who A, want to further your career and give you opportunities, and B, are willing to spend money on you going to an expensive camp. Like, great.
First of all, don't feel bad about being a downer, because you're the voice of reason that nobody knew they needed, right? But they need it, right? Second of all, you need a theme song, and we can workshop that later, but I'm pretty sure it will sound something like this. Here comes Emma, another downer point. But what she just said is really important, and you should listen, because society could be and should be better. Am I right? And the third thing I was going to say is this. You're right. A lot of kids didn't go to summer camp. You know what summer camp for a lot of kids is? Work. They go to work. They have a job. Right?
Yeah, that's what I did. I had a job.
Yeah, totally. And actually, not for nothing, so did I. I mean, camp for me was like a week. That's 1 week of the summer, 2 max. And then the rest of the summer, job.
Yeah.
And, I had a fairly charmed life. So, you're right. Summer camp is not a thing that is like it is not a thing of all people, right? And that's it's not a downer. That's a real good point, right?
Yeah, and I suppose like sometimes I think you can just look at like the constraints of the story without the context of like, oh, it's probably a thing that rich kids do. Even just looking within the story, I don't know that I was convinced that their parents were bad people, and I feel like it could have been quite easy to do that, like there are ways to paint parents as like not awful, terrible, evil people, but just kind of rubbish that they could have put in there, whereas instead they came across as actually quite caring and nice, like I think it was a mistake to start with the nerdy dad, for example, because I think it's, again, maybe in the 90s it was different, but for me it's hard to hate somebody just because they're very nerdy now. That might have been the sort of like the nerd renaissance that we've talked about in terms of that portrayal being better. But it's just right. I think if the main guy's dad had been the military dad, that would have made me feel less positively about him.
Exactly, right? Military dad, fair enough. The threat of military school, that's a theme. We get that, right? You're not a good kid. You're going to military school, right? It's like remember in The Breakfast Club when Judd Nelson's character's dad is like, "Smoke up, Johnny," and and he's a bad dad, and I think maybe maybe he didn't go to military. He did a bad dad. That it's reminiscent, or the concept. I'm going to use a term here, right? That probably isn't used now. I hope isn't used now, but was at the era, right? Sending your kid to fat camp. Have you heard, that, right? There was actually another movie around the same time called Heavyweights, which deals with this exact issue, which is a bunch of kids who have to go to this type of camp and they all revolt because they don't want to be there, right? Military camp, fat camp, I get it. Those are punishment camps. We want to change you. Drama camp? Computer camp
sounds incredible. Yeah, no, I was so not convinced that a kid wouldn't want to go to drama camp. Come on.
What? Oh, what?
Come on.
Why would they want to send the kid to drama camp unless they, at the very least, said I kind of like drama? Also, even if you're not an actor kid, go to drama camp. What do you get to? You get to wear costumes. You get to read about Shakespeare and stuff.
Yeah, it's like, the start of a movie is always so important in terms of setting the tone, setting how you feel. Because if in the first 10 minutes you're kind of going, oh, okay, then that feeling doesn't go away easily. If you're then asking us to go on this journey of believing that these children are going to get away with this, you haven't set me off on the right foot to do that. Yeah. You then introduce Dennis, who is portrayed as an ex-teacher, an ex-drama teacher. The fact that it's Christopher Lloyd obviously does a lot in terms of helping you, because I'm like, oh, it's fine, because I know this guy. He's cool.
He's a scientist. It's fine.
But I was like, if it was a different actor who I didn't know, I'd find it very difficult to get on board with that character.
Yeah.
And he then has this relationship with a doctor who becomes aware of the fact that this camp is going on near her, is aware of the fact that a child has been injured as a result of this camp, and that Dennis has actively lied to her about what's going on, and the fact that, not only that he's not the main character's dad, which he says he is, he's, a lot of stuff about him isn't true, and he's been enabling these children to put themselves at risk because they've given him loads of money.
Yeah.
She's then a bit mad for a bit. She's a bit annoyed with him. And then she forgives him and they drive off together at the end. And it's like, what an irresponsible doctor. She should have been in loads of trouble and probably had her license revoked.
You took an oath, okay? Right? You took an oath.
I think what I'm saying is, I think this movie probably was fun for a lot of people. It was clearly fun for you. For me personally, it was very difficult to get on board with it.
Yeah.
And I think that it's a shame because there probably could have been some changes to make it better. Making the parents more villainous or more dislikable, more hopeless. Yeah. Giving a better reason as to why Dennis was willing to help make this happen. Whether it was like, oh, they had older siblings who were in on it as well, who were responsible.
Right.
Or, there was, I guess, so he was trying to relive his youth himself, or he wanted to put on a play and it was going to be his last play, or just something like that to make it feel really real that he would do that.
Those are like 5 solid punch-ups in a row, right? It's too bad that Dennis's motivation was money. And that's it. You're right. There's so many other ways you could have done it. We'll fix it in a second. We'll twist it right up, But yeah, no, yeah, no, yeah. Yeah, no, yeah, I get, yeah, no, yeah, I get it, no, yeah. Hello and remain indoors. I know 2020's been a real drag and you can't basically do anything or go anywhere. But great news, podcasts are still a thing. Our podcast is still very much a thing, and we are so happy that you're listening to it. What would make everyone's 2021 even better would be if you shared our podcast on the social medias and tagged us at Plot Twisters Pod. The way I see it, we've come to a fork in the road, okay? And it's one of those classic fork in the roads where
you bend down and you try and wrench out the concrete, but it's jammed right in there, Because it's a fork in the road, like an eating fork.
Oh, eating, yes.
Jammed in the road.
Comedy. Thy name is your name.
It's like, when someone says a thing and it's a phrase and you then make it like a literal thing?
Yeah.
It's kind of that.
Yeah, exactly. A stitch in time saves 9. And it's like a needle in a clock.
Yeah.
That's
nice.
the joke. Get it?
Yeah.
Right? Or, if you love something, set it free.
That's why I haven't seen my cat for a week.
When you start your comedy career,
finally,
right? Will that be the first joke or the last joke of your tight 15?
The only.
Hey, everybody. Hey, thanks for coming out, especially you guys in the front. Whoa, you're having a good time. Hey, you know that thing? If you love something, set it free. I believe in that, and that's why I haven't seen my cat in 2 weeks.
Yeah. Maybe it would be funnier if I said, like, my pet parrot or something, because you would, like, cats are kind of free anyway. Hey.
So I left my tortoise on the busy highway. I haven't seen him since.
Oh.
So you're at this fork in the road. And to one side, it's a beautiful, sunny, meadow, okay?
Mm.
And you can frolic in the meadow, and there's flowers, and there's...
Do you know what I don't really get enough of these days? Like, you know what I don't... You know when you're like, you look back in your week and you're like, what didn't I do this week?
Yeah.
It's just like, I don't make enough time for frolicking in meadows anymore.
Yeah, I'm with you on that. With this busy, fast-paced rat race around, exactly. When was the last time you sat in a meadow?
Yeah.
I guarantee it wasn't in the last 2 years.
No. Let alone frolic. Shall I stop interrupting you and let you say your thing?
No, I want you to keep doing this. Is good.
I'll stop with my nonsense.
No, because mine is even a lower grade nonsense. But it's as a point. So,
it's that thing where I interrupt you enough that then when we eventually get back to the original thing you were saying, it was really underwhelming.
Yeah, no, exactly. And then we have an awkward silence, and the silence is the joke, okay?
Yeah, the silence is the joke.
It's like jazz. You got to listen to the notes that are not being played, not the notes that are being played, okay? This is jazz, okay? So you can go to the right of the fork, and you can go to the beautiful meadow to frolic, okay?
Yes.
Which we know you haven't done in a while. Or you can go to the left of the fork, and it's dark, cavernous woods, right? What I mean is, we're about to twist this movie. We can go really lighthearted and go super goofy and fun and either make Christopher Lloyd learn a thing or two and or he's not in the picture and they have a great time, or it's Lord of the Flies times 10 and it's bad and everybody who's a grown-up goes to prison and everyone who's younger than grown-up is scarred for life. Do you go to the right or to the left?
I want to take the middle prong and I want to just make this film
good,
middle of the road, boring. medium.
Right. Yeah.
Just medium. It's this, as close to the original story, but as underwhelming and unexciting as possible.
And what's great about that is that definitely will yield the good content and good listening. Let's go middling.
I think so. I think we could, yeah.
All
Let's
right.
make it beige. Let's make this movie beige.
One of my favorite colors. And that's not a joke. So middling, huh? All right, cool.
Middling.
All right. How do we do that?
Well, let's identify some of the extremes in this film.
All right.
They're kids. Yeah. Right? They're kids.
The kids.
And it's kids doing adult things. How can we make that not exciting?
What if they're not kids at all and that they're grown-ups and for some reason they're trying to get out of work for the summer?
They're trying to get out of a work trip.
Yes.
Yeah?
And they lie to their boss that they're going to a different work retreat.
Yes. What's their job? What's a really just normal, middling
They work
job?
in sales. They work in telemarketing. They work in sales and they work over the phone. They probably maybe they sell like, I don't know, roofing and siding materials or something.
Generic.
Yeah.
Love it. Maybe they start by wanting to do a Camp Nowhere, but maybe you've got one character who has, let's say, 4 kids.
Right.
And he's just exhausted from looking after these kids.
Tired.
So tired. And he's like, when I was younger, I wanted to go to camp and set off fireworks and eat a bunch of candy but do you know what I want? I just want a break, right? I just want a break. And then you've got
yes. Keep going.
Yes.
Yes. No, yes.
And then maybe you've got another character who she's working on a non-fiction book about the water system in like what's the capital of Milwaukee?
Well, Milwaukee's is a city. It's in Wisconsin.
Oh, I'm thinking of Wisconsin.
Yeah, Madison.
I got them the wrong way around.
Are you thinking of Madison, Wisconsin, which I believe is
Sure.
the capital? Yeah.
Madison, Wisconsin. She is writing a book about the history of the water system.
Yes. You
in
got
Madison, Wisconsin.
primary, secondary,
Yeah.
and tertiary treatment. Yeah. Okay, I'm with you.
And she's been trying to do it for ages, and she just wants to get it done. And she's like, I just want a week where I can just write this.
Finish
book.
my book, and I can't.
Yeah.
Yes. Okay. So you got There's a third person who's like,
What about somebody who always wanted to find a really exciting discovery in the earth made of metal?
I know what you're saying. Right. So you got someone who's a metal detectorist.
Yeah,
Right.
I think,
Right.
and I'm not saying that I think that's a boring thing. I think it's just like a middling
Yeah.
It's a reasonable hobby, isn't it? It's a reasonable thing.
Yeah. And
that's a bit interesting and different, but it's also quite it's quite a relaxing thing, right? So it's like it's chill.
the final friend, right? The fourth friend, they're a stockbroker, and they work on the stock market. And their
Yeah.
doctor has said, you're gonna have a heart attack. Maybe they did have a heart
okay.
attack.
Yeah.
And the doctor says, you need to calm down. And then and she's like, but stocks, and I can't stop. So they need to just they need to sit quietly for a while.
Maybe take up crochet.
Yeah, exactly. And making little, friends out of felt.
Yeah, felt pictures.
Felt friends. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. So you've got all these people, and they start by saying, we want to plan a camp nowhere, and we're going to get out of these various conferences that we need to go that happen to be around the same time, because we can some things we can just say that's how it is.
Uh-huh.
And they start planning this trip, and they're like, we want to have the wildest, craziest holiday ever. We're going to do all these crazy, crazy activities. We're going to plan this, we're going to plan this. And maybe they're working on planning this holiday together, and it's like, oh, do you know what? Actually, I don't know if I do want to do jet skis, because I have a bit of a bad ankle, and I'm just a bit worried, because I have got, I've got my daughter's wedding coming up in a few months. I'd hate to be, unable to walk for that, And then someone else is saying, yeah, no, I really want to go hiking up this mountain and have this spiritual exchange. I do have quite bad asthma at the moment, though, so maybe that's not, and things, they just back out, and then eventually it just turns into, let's just go away and let's just do our thing. You relax without your kids and watch some history documentaries. You write your water systems book. You go out with your metal detector.
Yep.
And I'll sit here and make my felt art, and we're just gonna have a really chill time.
So this is a film about four middle-aged people going on a quite lovely holiday together. Yes?
Yeah.
Do you want to go? So, okay, so we're established. We're there. We're into the middle of the movie. Okay?
Yes.
They're at the thing. It's all fine. Do we want to go 2, 5, or a hot spicy 10 for the big event in the middle? The climax, if you will.
Where do we want these characters to go? I think we could either say we want them to realize that actually it is okay to want what they want, and it's okay to take pleasure in simple things and just want a break.
Yeah.
Or we could also take it in that maybe they've all been for so long they've been repressing their childhood and their fun side, and they've just gotten used to putting up with, oh well, life is just difficult and hard and I just need to get on with things. And maybe not making time for themselves. So we either want them to accept what they're doing or change what they're doing. Which do you think?
I want them to change what they're doing.
Okay. Want to spice up their life.
The people of the world, right? Right? Every boy, every girl. I want them to realize, in a weird way, what I want them to realize is that the passion that they had when they were a kid was the thing they should have pursued, but they didn't. Okay? And I want them all to be really sad about that for a moment, while sat around a bonfire going, I should have written my book when I was in my 20s. Why did I wait so long? Crochet, lady's like, this is my passion. Why did I get so wrapped up in the stock market? And don't even get me started about, the guy who can't sleep. He maybe didn't want to have kids. I don't know. We'll workshop that one. Here's what I'm thinking, though. Please don't get angry because I'm going to talk about time travel just for a second.
I'm so angry. No, I'm kidding.
One of the best parts about the original movie, Camp Nowhere, is that 2 members of Back to the Future were in it, okay?
Oh, my God. Okay. Yeah.
Doc Brown and Biff Tannen were both in this movie, okay? And I'm not saying that this is canonically linked to Back to the Future, nor am I saying that the DeLorean needs to show up, because do you know what? That would be ridiculous.
That would be ridiculous. Unless you don't think it would be.
It would be ridiculous unless you're into it, and so am I. Right? That would be insane.
That's what you meant.
What I'm saying is, and I'm just thinking about 4 people who come together under the ruse of going to a training seminar, who all indulge in their childhood passion and realize, gee whiz, we've wasted the last 40 years of our lives. We should have done this earlier. And then a screeching car comes to a halt, and it is in fact Doc Brown. And he goes, something's got to be done. And they go, what? And then he goes, something's got to be done about all of your lives. Come with me. And maybe he takes them back in time, and then they change things. Is that that's canonical. That's part of Back to the Future. Maybe it's not a DeLorean. Maybe it's a different car. Maybe it's, a beat up Chevrolet or whatever, right? Right. Rapid fire. Let's go ahead and rate this movie. Emma, I would love to know, on a scale of 1 to 5, 10-foot long hoagies that you have to cut with a chainsaw, what would you rate the 1994 classic Camp Nowhere?
A hoagie's a sandwich, right?
Come on. Yeah, it's like a Subway sandwich. It's a big sandwich.
It's a big sandwich.
In the movie, there was a big sandwich and they cut it with a chainsaw. That's what I'm referencing.
Yeah. It's just a silly word for a sandwich. I would rate this movie 2 hoagies.
2 hoags. Nice.
Yeah, it's good. I thought there were some problems with the plot. How about you?
3 hoagies, let me tell you why. Christopher Lloyd and, youth and the 90s. And, summer can't get to do whatever you want to do.
Yeah.
Well, I think we have run out of time on this episode of the podcast. But before we leave, Emma, I just wanted to ask, do you know what the first rule of theater is?
No.
Talk loud enough so people can hear you.
Okay.
Okay. I'll talk to you later.
Okay. Bye.
Bye. Hey, thanks for listening to this episode of Plot Twisters.
Leave us a review on Apple Podcasts if you have the time.
We'll see you next time.
Bye.
Bye. I was down here and you were up here. Bye. And now I'm up here. Hey, should I put those all together into one sort of chord? Bye. Now I'm up here.